Nintendo, you've got a huge problem. I don't think that these establishments are up to OSHA standards. Oh, you thought that since you're a Japanese-based company, or that Pokemon is fictional, that you'd be exempt? Sorry, you underestimate how seriously we take safety. For those of you who don't know, OSHA is the body over here in the States that determines safety guidelines for workspaces. And something tells me that these gyms are not up to standard. Skip to the violations if you want, but real quick. I don't know how to exactly categorize elemental beast battles, so I'm just going to be using any OSHA guideline that I can find, regardless of the category that it applies to. Secondly, this video is inspired by Polygon's video with Brian David Gilbert on Smash Stage violations. Alright, so let's name our player Rave. Hi, I'm Rave. Name our rival Failure, and grab our starter Pokemon and name it Hamilton.
I'll call him Hamilton.
Let's get inspecting. First, we have all of the violations that every gym violates in one way or the other. One is the fact that no gym has any exit signage. The front door may have an exit sign, but I can't see it, so that's a violation. Water sanitation. No gym seems to have a bathroom, and no, I will not count Misty's pool as one. Safety training. None of the gyms seem to have any sort of training or safety plan. I don't think that Brock has a plan on what to do if I get entombed in rock by his Onix.
Wonderful.
Medical services. It's cool that all of the gyms seem to have some kind of potion available to them, but there really needs to be a Nurse Joy on standby. Lord Arceus knows there's enough of them for that. Recording injury. There's nothing on this. Where is the paperwork to write down that a Pokemon just literally exploded? And last, general safety. We are dealing with elemental forces here. Everything is a hazard to general safety. I think this one is self-explanatory. A violation I won't be counting against any of the gym leaders is the employment of minors. If it's okay to send a 10-year-old out on their own with a flaming lizard to take down crime bosses, I can assume that employment laws here just let you employ kids. It's not exactly an OSHA-related violation, but it is a labor law one, so I thought it was worth mentioning. I will also not be holding any gym responsible for not being prepared for any type of Pokemon that isn't employed at their gym. So hypothetically, if a gym doesn't have any fire suppression for my Charizard, I'll let it slide if they don't have any fire Pokemon themselves. Now that's 6 violations for each gym already. Off to a bad start. But now let's rock and roll over to the first gym in Pewter City.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite.
Alright, Brock, if that is your real name, mind explaining why despite being a rock gym, you provide no protective headgear? OSHA standards require that all employees be provided with protective headgear when exposed to potentially falling objects. And last I checked, your Onix knows Rock Tomb, which is literally it throwing rocks. We could also argue that Onix itself is a potentially falling object, but we'll ignore that. Secondly, where are the goggles provided for trainers? Camper Liam has a violent pangolin throwing sand all over the place. That could get in my eyes. I accept the fact that Pokemon may get eye damage, but I draw the line at myself. Healthcare may be free in this world, but I'd rather not go through all of that. And that's all of the violations for Gym 1. Going forward, I'll be including the 6 regulations that all gyms violate in the total count. Surprisingly, Brock did avoid some violations. One of those was making the area accessible for people with disabilities, as well as keeping the walkway free from debris and hazards, as I'm just considering this walkway right here as the work area, as you don't really need to go into the other parts that do have rocks laying around. And in the anime, even though it wasn't required, we do know that Brock has a fire suppression system in place. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he has proper lighting and ventilation within the gym. Good work, Brock. Just fix up those few issues and you're free to reopen. I'll tell you your bill at the end of the video. Moving on to Gym 2 in Cerulean City. Surprisingly, things get more hazardous when involving water. I know you would think that a rock gym is more dangerous than a water gym, but that's why you're not an OSHA representative, and I am pretending to be one on the internet. First off, this walkway. What are you doing with this walkway? This is a huge slipping hazard. There are Pokemon constantly spraying water out of their orifices. Somebody is going to slip. Misty, Where are your wet floor signs? Additionally, this whole walkway does not have any guardrails. This is probably my biggest ironic pet peeve in video gaming, is when a giant facility of some kind just doesn't have any guardrails to prevent people from falling and causing serious injury. Misty, you need railing at least 4 feet high all around this place. I don't want to pull a Michael Scott. What if I walk into your gym, don't know how to swim, slip on a puddle, hit my head, and drown while nobody is looking? Which actually brings me to my next point. There is not a single active lifeguard on duty. I don't care how good of a swimmer you are, Misty. You may be too busy getting swept by an electric rodent to notice a youngster Joey drowning at the far end of the pool. And there aren't even any life rings in this whole building. This pool is almost as deadly as the one in Sims 2. But at least you included ladders. And for my last violation is the lack of drains. Workspaces must manage water buildup, but I see no way to drain the pool or the surrounding walkways. And with all the water being spewed out, I'm surprised that this place hasn't flooded over yet. There may be drains at the bottom of this pool, but it is so dirty, I can't see them. So it seems there's actually another violation. The pool is clearly not being filtered frequently enough. Are the lack of bathrooms leading to trainers and Pokemon just peeing in the pool? That's 2 violations actually, for unclean water and waste from Pokemon. Wait, are some water moves just Pokemon peeing really hard? Oh my god. I could require the area to include at least 1 shower, but OSHA only requires that for chemical or biological hazard sites, and I'm not going to consider Misty's pool a biological hazard. Not yet, at least. What Misty does get right is that the trainer in the pool is properly outfitted, the lighting is good, and Misty herself is wearing proper footwear to avoid slipping. Oh, I see. You care about your own safety, but not the safety of picnicker Diana. And of course, the pool is also free from electrical hazards. Misty is very lucky that I am not holding her responsible for me potentially bringing in a legendary electric chicken. That's a lot of violations, Misty. Hey, maybe you can ask your 3 sisters to help you out with the fines that you're gonna have to pay. Shocking nobody, the 3rd gym of Vermilion City is even worse. Ah, Lieutenant Surge, while I appreciate your military service and your electric personality, OSHA does not play favorites here. So let's see what this gym is like. Oh my goodness, what is that? An exposed electric fence? Yeah, that's a violation. Everyone in here is exposed to a huge electrical hazard. My character may not touch it, but that has more to do with the common sense of the protagonist and not OSHA-approved safety measures. Additionally, nobody here is outfitted with protective gear to be around electrical hazards, including your Pokemon. Lieutenant Surge, your biceps may be impressive, but you need to cover them up to avoid electrocution. Just slap on some rubber gloves and that would be enough for me. And now don't go thinking that these trash cans are free from scrutiny. The electric fence will not distract me from them. Firstly, your puzzle involving them is awful, and I hate that I had to go through it all over again just for this video. This is RNG nonsense. Get it out of my monster collecting game, you lousy lieutenant. That's not a violation, but it has to be said. Okay, for a real violation though, hooking up electrical wiring into a metal can is wildly unsafe and risks electrocution. That's a separate violation. These cans are also a huge tripping hazard being in the middle of the room when your horribly planned electrical system inevitably malfunctions. I do not want trainers tripping over these things when they're rushing to the exit. And speaking of electrical systems, between the electricity arcing between your walls and the electric moves of your Pokemon, this whole area is at risk of overloading circuits. This place is clearly not maintained to prevent overloading. And you know what comes with overloading? That's right, fire. I may not be holding you accountable for preparing for my fire lizard Hamilton, but this whole place is a fire hazard. And you know what I don't see anywhere? A fire extinguisher, not a single one. Heck, I'd settle for just a water Pokemon on standby. Hey, Ray from the future here. I realized while editing that you should not, in fact, put water on an electrical fire. So don't do that in real life. And do not get me started on the lack of hazard communication. There are a wide variety of hazard signs, each communicating their own specific hazard. And you know what? I would have looked the other way if there was just one sign that had an exclamation mark inside of it. Sure, this one would be more appropriate, but by this point, I'd take anything. And don't think that I missed the huge oil drums in the Let's Go games. That's 2 more violations for not storing them in their own room or area and placing them near electrical equipment like your Raichu.
Raichu, give it a thunderbolt. Shut it down.
Don't do that. You will blow us all up. This may be you from an alternate dimension timeline thing, but OSHA does not view that as a viable excuse. OSHA always gets its man. Oh, and remove Sonic Boom from your Voltorb. I did not receive any earplugs when entering your gym, so that's a violation for not having proper ear safety. That's a lot of violations there, Lieutenant Surge. I hope you saved up a lot in your rainy day fund. Okay, onto the seemingly more pleasant gym of Celadon City, but I'll be the judge of that. Let's start out with the most obvious issue. Where are my respirators? I'm not grasping at straws here. It's a big issue. You've got Pokemon throwing Stun Spore and Poison Powder left and right. It may be acceptable for my Pokemon to get hit by this, but I'd like to avoid this, and I assume all the other trainers do too. And then there's Sleep Powder. We can't have trainers just potentially passing out like that. And Erika herself is frequently sleeping on the job site. OSHA dictates that there needs to be a space free from hazards for employees to take a break. And I don't see anywhere that is free from the hazardous spores being spewed out by your Pokemon. And still on the topic of spores, there needs to be a lot more ventilation in here. At least crack open a window or 2. I don't want to come in and get hit by some leftover stun spores from a battle an hour earlier.
I always hate going in there.
Next, Erika is very fortunate that I am not holding her accountable to my fire lizard, because all of this dense foliage would be a violation without proper fire suppression. But what I can call her on is the obstruction of exit routes. Erika and 3 other trainers are boxed in by trees, and if a stray flamethrower hit the shrubbery, they would become barbecue as there is no way to escape. Because last I checked, Erika does not have a single Pokemon that knows Cut to get them out of there. Wait, then how did she get in there? Has she been sleeping for so long that trees grew while she was asleep? Jeez, girl, lay off the oddish leaves, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, and Erika, your Vileplume knows acid. How do you plan to store and clean up any leftover acid from battles past? I see no cleaning crew, no method to store any leftover acid, and no protective gear for any of the employees. Those are all violations. Erika, your gym is a death trap. Stop sleeping and fix it. And so that brings me to her most egregious violation. She is following discriminatory hiring practices. That's right, Erika, I'm calling you out. All of the people in this gym are girls. Even all of their Pokemon are female. You think that's just a coincidence? Every other gym has a mix of male and female. Okay, well, Brock only has 1 other trainer in their gym, and it's a boy, and all of their Pokemon are male, but that's a low sample size to call it discriminatory, and he does fix this in the Let's Go games. Same with Koga, an all-male gym within FireRed, but it's fixed within the Let's Go games. And Lieutenant Surge, he employs genderless Pokemon. But all 8 trainers and their Pokemon here are female, even in the Let's Go games?
Coincidence? I think not!
While this doesn't fall under OSHA regulations, I will be informing my friends at the EEOC about this. They're the people that deal with workplace discrimination. Oh, and Erika, OSHA violations are not your biggest concern. I've informed my friends at the FBI that you might be potentially running an underground oddish leaf racket and selling to 10-year-old trainers. Oh, you just sell perfume? Sure, tell it to the feds. That's a lot of fines and jail time, Erika. I sure hope that your perfume business was doing really well. Now let's move on over to Fuchsia City for the Poison Gym. Oh Lord, have mercy on this gym leader. Koga, do not take any of the violations I give you poisonally. Get it? Like personally? Okay, I'm doing my best with the puns here, guys. Let's start with the easiest one. Exposure to toxic substances. All of Koga's Pokemon know Sludge and Toxic, and none of the trainers here are equipped with protective gear to avoid contact with the materials or avoid inhaling any of the toxic gases. I mean, all wheezing does is spew toxic gas. We need respirators. And no, Koga, putting your scarf over your nose and mouth does not count. That's 2 violations for inhaling and touch. There's also the issue of ventilation. All of the gases from battles past need to go somewhere. I don't want to be inhaling any toxic gases that your Pokemon released earlier this morning. And no, those windows will not cut it. I can't even tell if they're open. Just get an industrial fan or something. But we're not done with the toxins yet. No way. What do you do when your muck leaves a trail of sludge on the floor? Its Pokédex literally states that its footprints contain poison. So what is your plan to dispose of it? Honestly, I'd let it all go if you had at least a Blastoise that knows Hydro Pump on reserve to clean up the mess, but you need something. And lastly, related to toxins, is the lack of chemical communication hazards. There are no material safety data sheet signage anywhere in this gym. You've probably seen these before. They're the red, white, blue, yellow squares that you can find on materials within labs or work sites. These communicate the health hazard, fire hazard, reactive type, and special considerations of a material to be aware of. There's a whole host of information communicated with the numbers or symbols used. I'll put a reference sheet on screen right now if you want to pause to see what each rank and symbol mean. And so I ask you, Koga, how is an emergency response team supposed to know what to do properly without any MSDS information? They need to know what they're dealing with, Koga. You are endangering children for a kooky type thing. And the issues do not end there. The invisible walls may be a fun little gimmick, but when my sweet Hamilton is in need of medical aid, the last thing I need to be doing is wasting time trying to find my way out. That is a clear obstruction of egress in an emergency. That's a violation. You know those videos of kids running into mirrors within a hall of mirrors? Yeah, I don't want that to be me when I'm cradling my poor sweet Hamilton. Well, alright, that seems to be all the Wait! His coughing's no self-destruct? Koga, you cannot have those here. Explosives must be stored safely, not released from a Pokeball. If the explosives are chemical, they must not be within a confined space. Your gym is the definition of a confined space. You also need to provide warning of a detonation, but you just do it willy-nilly. Oh, and you also need to not detonate them near personnel. I am personnel, Koga. Send them to the PC. Now, Koga, I'm gonna do you a favor and assume that none of the material that your Pokemon release are flammable so you can avoid an additional violation. But I'm only doing that because I really like ninjas. Let's hope that your daughter creates a safer gym than you when she takes over. Okay, gym number 6 in Saffron City with Sabrina. Can I take a quick second to call out just how cool Sabrina's Gen 1 design is? She looks cool, powerful, and a little bit scary. But in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they made her look so much less cool to me. Like, this design makes it look like she's gonna put me in a Pokeball the hard way. But this design makes it look like she's gonna try to sell me some essential oils on TikTok. Or she's just a psychic to some 90s TV show supervillain. It's not a violation, but it should be. Okay, first off, thank you Sabrina for using proper guardrails within Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. In FireRed and LeafGreen, she just had walls, but when she upgraded, she saw the need to follow proper OSHA guidelines. Thank you for doing right by your employees. Now this gym is kinda difficult because OSHA doesn't really categorize teleporters or psychic damage and powers. I mean, do the teleporters emit radiation like X-rays? Probably, but I don't know that, so I can't call her on it. Do they pull me apart atom by atom, only to rebuild me somewhere else, thus effectively ending one version of me, only to create a new one, a la Shipathesius? I don't know. Does Sabrina's mental might cause small but permanent brain damage to trainers? Maybe, but I can't really know that now, can I? So she's probably getting out of a lot of violations just due to the lack of research into totally real, not made up by promise, psychic powers in reality. What I can call her out on is the lack of an exit route. These teleporters are anything but clear. Please label them. And yeah, that's all the violations I've got for her, other than the violations mentioned at the start of the video. And so we're moving on to the Cinnabar Island gym. Okay, Blaine, I'm fired up from Sabrina's gym, so let's do this. First off, on paper, your gym looks pretty good as far as gyms go. No tripping hazards, no pits anywhere, and no toxic gases. But there is still a lot of issues. There are a ton of problems related to fire here. Go figure. Nobody has any protective gear to deal with fire. And you're wearing a lab coat. This is less a lab and more of an oven. I also do not see a single fire extinguisher anywhere in this gym. I thought that those were obviously needed, Blaine. OSHA also requires that you do not keep heating devices within enclosed spaces. All of your Pokemon are heating devices, Blaine. All of these battles need to be taking place outdoors. I also do not see a single hydration station for trainers. I don't know how hot it gets in here, but I do know that heat stroke and dehydration are a risk. That's a violation, Blaine. And then your gym in FireRed has a unique issue not present in the Let's Go games. The quiz system you use within FireRed presents a problem with emergency exits. If a youngster Joey entered the gym after me, do I have to wait for him to answer all the questions correctly for me to leave? I sure hope not. Please provide emergency exits, Blaine. You may have come to this island thinking that it was outside of OSHA's jurisdiction, but you were wrong. Prepare to be fined. And now we come to the last gym in Viridian City. A nice grounded gym, I'm sure. Wait. Where is he? What do you mean I have to defeat a criminal organization to face him? That's absurd. I'm 10. This isn't a violation, but it really should be. The main issue in this gym are these spinning floor tiles. Walking surfaces must be safe and hazard-free, and I would consider these to be a hazard. These are just a lawsuit waiting to happen. They also make having access to an emergency route very difficult. Alright, other than that, I think everything's in order. Wait, all of Giovanni's Pokemon no earthquake? Oh, that's gonna be a lot of violations. Firstly, I do not see any emergency action plan in the event of an earthquake caused by a literal crime boss. On top of that, this building does not look nearly up to code enough to withstand multiple earthquakes in quick succession. Look, you can feint my Pokemon, but I draw the line at property damage, Giovanni. Oh, and then there's the tripping hazards and the dust exposure caused by all of these earthquakes and debris. There needs to be a 24/7 cleaning crew on staff, and goggles, respirators, and helmets provided to everyone at the entrance. That's gonna be 4 more violations for you, Giovanni. I also did not see a single sign posting warning of seismic activity or any of the other hazards like the spinning tiles. I do not want to walk into your gym and get surprised by the green arrow death traps. Giovanni, I hope you have enough funds to not only pay all of the OSHA violations, but all of the impending lawsuits coming from your setup. Oh, and did I forget to mention that I also let the FBI know of your criminal dealings? They'll be with you after they deal with Erika. Now, I could end it here, but why leave the Elite Four out of the fun? I'll go through them quickly. Lorelei, you need to offer proper protection from the cold. Your outfit may be stylish, but it's not OSHA compliant. And also, ice is a slipping hazard, so please place down a sign that warns people that the floor may be frozen at times. And next, you do have Pokemon that use hail, surf, and spikes. No hard hats, no flotation devices, and spikes are literally called a hazard. Prepare to be fined. Bruno, I see that your Onix knows Rock Tomb and Earthquake. All of the issues applying to Giovanni also apply to you, my buff friend. You should have stuck to just fighting types and not add like 2 rock snake monsters to the team. It would have saved you a whole lot of money. I mean, seriously, Primeape and Poliwrath are right there. Agatha, I may not know how to categorize Nightmare, Hypnosis, and a literal curse, but I do know how to categorize your toxic attacks. exposure to toxic substances, no chemical signage, no ventilation, and no plan on how to dispose of leftover sludge bombs, get your purse ready, Grandma. And Lance, you are so lucky that OSHA doesn't have to deal with anything remotely close to dragons. Because personally, I feel like a dragon that knows Hyper Beam and an Aerodactyl in general should be like 100 violations and a crime for playing God. But instead, I'll slap you with a violation for your Dragonair knowing Thunderwave but having no protective equipment against electrical hazards. As well, I'm going to consider your Gyarados as an overhead hazard that is not properly being controlled, because it literally knows a move called Dragon Rage. Gyarados may not look like an overhead flying hazard, but it is flying type, so I'm gonna take what I can get, especially considering that Lance is getting off easy. And then there's failure. Firstly, there is no rest area. I have gone through 4 levels of Pokepain, and OSHA requires that there is a rest area for employees, so that is a violation. Secondly, since your team is so diverse, you get violations related to Earthquake, Sand Attack, water hazards from Hydro Pump, and fire hazards from Flamethrower, not to mention respiratory hazards from Sleep Powder and explosive violations from Seed Bomb, similar to those gained from Self-Destruct. Not only did you lose the champion title, but you're gonna be in debt to the government forever at the ripe old age of 10. I had considered adding Victory Road as part of the Elite Force facility, but I felt that was too much of a stretch. So, adding up all of the violations that we've gathered throughout the video, that is a whopping 161 violations between the 8 gyms and the Indigo Plateau. At the time of this recording, the maximum fine per violation is $16,550. That goes up to $165,514 for every repeat violation. But for the sake of the gym leaders, I'm going to ignore repeat violations from different sources per gym. For example, if 2 different Pokemon in the same gym contribute to the same violation, that's just going to be 1 violation for the gym. And similar violations from different gym leaders will be counted, but I'm not going to count them as repeat violations since the violation is coming from a separate gym leader. So once I put all of those numbers in, assuming that I find all of these violations on the same day to avoid repeat violations, that is a total of $2,664,500 that the Pokemon League in Gen 1 owes in fines. I'll break down the cost per trainer on the screen right now if you want to stop to pause the video. But I'd like to draw attention to Sabrina, who owes the least in fines at $115,850, and Failure, who owes the most at $314,450. And it could have been so much worse for him if I had counted similar violations caused from different sources, such as needing goggles from Earthquake and Sand Attack. So he got off lucky. When I started working on this video, I was a little worried that I wasn't going to find many violations at all, or I was going to find the same violations over and over and over again for every single gym. But I am happy to say that I found more than enough, and horrified at sending an unaccompanied minor into these places. If these young trainers survive the wilderness surrounded by feral beasts and the lack of food due to being on their own, the lack of safety planning within these buildings will surely finish them off. Nintendo, I implore you, when you remake Gen 1 again in 5 to 10 years, please get these places up to code. Not for me, but for the children of the Pokemon world. Just pay the fine of over $2 million on behalf of the Pokemon League and do better. And you can send that payment over to me. I'll make sure that OSHA gets it. Don't you worry. You can reach me on my Twitter or on Blue Sky, because I just made an account because of, well, you know, Twitter. Again, do it for the kids, not for me. And speaking of kids, in the Pokemon world, they may use child labor, but in the real world, we shouldn't be, but it still happens. So if you want to help fight against the use of child labor around the world, I've put a link to an organization that you can donate to down in the description. This might seem random, but I wanted to add charity information into my videos where I can. So if you want to donate, links down in the description. And that's the end of the video. Do the usual like, comment, and subscribing, and leave any other video ideas down in the comment section. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get the heck out of this building before it seriously harms me. See ya, and stay awesome.